Today we're going to talk about gridding your exam. I've got 4 different options for you depending on the medium and the shape of your paper. The first one is an 18 by 12 drawing if you're doing a regular pencil rectangle. I always like to have 2 grids to work from, the regular grid and the mini grid. On the left you can see the regular grid, and on the right you can see the mini grid. By now you should have used the gridding tool app a couple times, so you should be familiar with how to get the picture from your photos into the app itself. Once it's in the app, you can start pulling up the tools and to adjust the way the picture looks. You can change it to make it look bigger, to make it look smaller, just to make sure that it fits your grid. For the 18 by 12 piece of paper, I want to make sure that I fill up that 4 square by 6 square rectangle that you can see right there. So as you can tell, I'm going back and forth from sizing it, moving it left and moving it right, making it bigger because I want to make sure that my photograph goes from the top to the bottom, to the left to the right, that it fills up that entire 4 square by 6 square grid. Here, just a reminder of what some of the tools can do. Once you have the toolbar pulled up, the little palette in the top left-hand corner will change the color of your grid. The pencil will change the thickness of your grid. The 2X button will change the size of your grid. The double arrow button will give you options of moving your picture around and making it bigger and smaller. And then the little dial on the far right-hand side can adjust the transparency of your grid. When you have the grid exactly how you want it, I would recommend taking a screenshot. But first, click on the side of the screen to get rid of the toolbars and take a screenshot. And I always recommend getting a mini grid as well. To do that, click on the screen again, click on the blue squares in the bottom left, hit the 2X button, get rid of the toolbars again, and take a screenshot, and you'll have your mini grid. And to set up your paper, the regular grid is 3 inches by 3 inches, and the mini grid is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Next, we'll set up a grid if you're doing a regular pencil square drawing that's 15 inches by 15 inches. For this, you want your regular grid to be 3 squares by 3 squares, and your mini grid to be 6 squares by 6 squares. For this grid, I want to set up a 3 square by 3 square grid over top of my image. Since it's a square and my picture is a rectangle, I do know that I'm going to have to crop some of the information out, which is not that big of a deal. So what I'll do is I'll look at the grid and I will find a 3 square by 3 square section of the grid, and I will adjust my picture to fit what I want to show or what I want to draw inside of that 3 square by 3 square portion of that grid. And when I have what I want, I'll take a screenshot of the regular grid and also a screenshot of the mini grid, so I have both when I'm drawing my exam. And then setting up your paper, the regular grid for this would be 5 inches by 5 inches, and the mini grid would be 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Next, we'll set up a grid for a colored pencil square drawing that's 12 inches by 12 inches. For this, I want to set up a 4 square by 4 square grid for my regular grid and an 8 square by 8 square grid for my mini grid. For this, I know I want to make a 4 square by 4 square grid. So what I'll do is I will focus on a 4 square by 4 square section of the grid on the app, and I will adjust my photograph by making it bigger, making it smaller, moving it left or moving it right, moving it up or moving it down to fit the information that I want to draw within that 4 square by 4 square section. Once I get the information that I want inside the 4 square by 4 square section, I will take a screenshot of that, and then I will hit the 2X button to get a mini grid. And the mini grid will change it from a 4 square by 4 square to an 8 square by 8 square section. And when setting this up on my paper, my regular grid is going to be 3 inches by 3 inches, and my mini grid is going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Now we'll set up a grid for a colored pencil rectangle piece that's 10 inches by 14 inches. For this, we want to set up a grid that is 5 squares by 7 squares. In order to do this, you do have to start off with the mini grid. So you'll first have to just go ahead and hit the 2x button in the top left-hand corner and get the smallest squares possible. Then you can just focus in on the app, select a 5 square by 7 square section, and adjust your photograph, making it bigger, making it smaller, moving it left, moving it right, moving it up, and moving it down until it fills that 5 square by 7 square section of that grid. When you have that, get a screenshot of that, and with this one you will not be able to get a mini grid, but you'll have a small enough grid that it should be fairly manageable to work with. To set up your paper, it's just the regular grid at 2 inches by 2 inches. So that's how you set up a pretty standard grid, 18 by 12, at 15 by 15, at 12 by 12, and at 10 by 14. If you have any additional sizes, contact me and we can set those up on an individual basis. Or of course, if you need help setting these up, let me know, and I will gladly help you out. Thanks to Love Jones for the soundtrack, and thanks to Tonks, our cat, for the use of her image for this video.